In the quiet town of Riverton, Wyoming, there is a grave that tells a story. It is a story not of peace, but of a silent and invisible danger. This is the final resting place of Ralph Digger Olson. He was a uranium miner, a man who dug deep into the earth to help power a new age. But the earth held a secret, a poison that he unknowingly took with him. The legend says that even today, decades after his death in 1972, his grave remains radioactive. It is a haunting tale, whispered among the locals. They say that grass struggles to grow over his final resting place, a stark patch of ground that serves as a permanent reminder of the price he paid. This is more than just a local myth. It's a symbol of a hidden history. Ralph Olson was one of many men who ventured into the mines, believing they were building a better future. They were part of the atomic age, providing the raw material for both nuclear power and weapons. They were proud of their work. They were strong men, providing for their families. But they were never told about the invisible threat that filled the air they breathed in those dark tunnels. The very rock they blasted and hauled was slowly poisoning them, embedding a deadly legacy deep within their bodies. His grave is not just a marker for one man. It is a monument to an entire generation of miners who were sacrificed. The tales passed down through the years paint a chilling picture. It's said that if you were to bring a Geiger counter to Digger Olson's grave, the device would still click and crackle, detecting the radiation that lingers there. This isn't science fiction. It is the lingering echo of his life's work. The radioactive particles he inhaled settled into his bones, his tissues, his very being. When he was laid to rest, that radioactivity was buried with him, a ghost that refuses to fade away. It's a powerful and disturbing thought that the earth itself carries the memory of this contamination, refusing to let the grass heal over the wound. The story forces us to ask a profound question. How can something so powerful remain so hidden? Radiation has no smell, no taste, no color. For Digger Olson and his fellow miners, the danger was all around them, yet completely undetectable to their senses. They worked day in and day out, unaware that each breath was a step closer to a tragic fate. His grave stands as a stark testament to this invisible enemy. It challenges our understanding of safety and forces us to confront the long-lasting consequences of our quest for power. It reminds us that some dangers do not simply disappear when a life ends, they can persist for generations. To understand the story of Digger Olson, we must go deep underground, into the uranium mines of Wyoming. In the mid-20th century, these mines were a hive of activity. Men descended into the darkness, armed with drills and dynamite, to extract the precious ore. This was a time of great optimism and national pride. The United States was a nuclear power, and these miners were on the front lines, supplying the fuel for its ambitions. They worked hard, in difficult and often dangerous conditions, believing they were contributing to their country's strength and security. But they were completely unaware of the true nature of the rock they were handling. The real danger wasn't the ore itself, but something it released: radon gas. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that is created when uranium decays. In the open air, it disperses harmlessly. But in the enclosed, poorly ventilated spaces of a mine, it concentrates into a lethal cocktail. The miners breathed this gas in, hour after hour, day after day. Tiny radioactive particles known as radon daughters attached themselves to dust and lodged deep within the miner's lungs. These particles continued to decay, bombarding the delicate lung tissue with damaging radiation, silently setting the stage for disease and death. The men knew something was wrong, even if they couldn't name it. They would emerge from the mines covered in a fine, yellow dust. Some stories claim that the miners became so saturated with radioactive material that they could make a Geiger counter sing just by standing next to it. They carried this contamination home with them, on their clothes, on their skin, unknowingly exposing their own families. They suffered from what they called the uranium cough, a persistent hacking cough that was a grim foreshadowing of the lung cancer that would eventually claim so many of them. They were living with a poison, but without the knowledge to protect themselves. This wasn't just an accident, it was a failure of protection. The government and the mining companies knew about the risks of radon exposure in mines as early as the 1950s. They knew that simple ventilation could dramatically reduce the danger. Yet, for years, little was done. The miners were never warned. They were never given proper protective equipment. The rush for uranium, driven by the Cold War, took priority over the health and safety of the men who were digging it out of the ground. The story of Digger Olsen is the story of this profound betrayal, a tale of men who were sacrificed for progress they would never get to see. The true cost of uranium mining didn't become clear until the men started dying. One by one, strong, hard-working miners began to fall ill with aggressive forms of lung cancer and other radiation-related diseases. Ralph Digger Olsen was one of them, passing away in 1972. His death and the deaths of so many others left behind a community of widows and fatherless children. These families were not just grieving, they were confused and angry. They saw a devastating pattern emerging, a plague that seemed to target the men who had worked in the mines. They began to connect the dots between the work their husbands did and the sickness that took them. This realization sparked a long and difficult battle for justice. At the forefront of this fight were the widows, women like Mildred Olsen, Ralph's wife. They refused to let their husbands' deaths be dismissed as mere coincidence. They organized, they spoke out, and they demanded answers. They were joined by concerned community members and a local journalist named Bill Sniffen, who used his platform to amplify their stories. They faced powerful opposition from mining companies and a government that was reluctant to admit its role in the tragedy. It was a fight of ordinary people against an immense system, fueled by grief and a fierce determination to uncover the truth. Their journey was filled with obstacles. For years, their claims were denied. Officials and company representatives argued there was no definitive proof linking uranium mining to the cancers. But the evidence was all around them, in the cemeteries and in the homes filled with sorrow. Even Senator Al Simpson of Wyoming was initially skeptical. However, the turning point came when he met with the widows and families. He heard their heart-wrenching stories, saw their pain, and was confronted with the undeniable human toll. This personal encounter changed his mind, and he became a powerful champion for their cause in the halls of Washington, D.C. After decades of persistent advocacy, their voices were finally heard. On October 15, 1990, the United States government passed the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. This landmark legislation was more than just a law, it was an admission of guilt. It established a fund to provide financial compensation to the uranium miners, as well as to the downwinders who were affected by nuclear weapons testing. Crucially, it also included an official apology from the government. It was a hard-won victory, a testament to the power of a small community that refused to be silenced, ensuring that the suffering of men like Digger Olsen would not be forgotten. The story of Digger Olsen's grave transcends the life of one man. It has become a powerful and enduring symbol, a physical manifestation of the invisible dangers of the nuclear age. That barren patch of earth in Riverton is a warning written on the land itself. It tells us that the consequences of our actions, especially when dealing with atomic materials, do not simply vanish. They linger. They persist in the soil, in our bodies, and in our collective memory. The grave serves as a constant, quiet sentinel, reminding us that the legacy of radiation can haunt us for generations, long after the mines have closed and the profits have been counted. This lesson resonates far beyond the fields of Wyoming. We see similar stories across the globe. In Japan, the survivors of the atomic bombings, known as the hibakusha, have carried the physical and psychological scars of radiation for their entire lives. They fought against discrimination and dedicated themselves to a world free of nuclear weapons, a mission recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize in 2024. Their struggle, like that of the uranium miners, shows that the human cost of nuclear technology is immense and long-lasting. Whether it's a bomb dropped from the sky or radon gas seeping from the earth, the impact on human life is devastating and irreversible. Today, as we stand on June 30th, 2025, the threat of nuclear materials has not faded, it has evolved. Nations continue to pursue nuclear capabilities, and international tensions run high. Reports from early 2025 show that countries like Iran are advancing their nuclear programs at an alarming rate, bringing the world closer to a dangerous precipice. The IAEA struggles to monitor these activities, leaving the international community in a state of uncertainty. Digger Olsen's grave reminds us that the materials at the heart of these geopolitical conflicts have real, tangible, and deadly consequences that begin long before a weapon is ever built, starting with the very act of pulling them from the ground. The ultimate lesson from that lonely grave in Wyoming is one of remembrance and responsibility. We must remember the price paid by Ralph Digger Olson and countless others like him. Their stories are not just history, they are a moral compass for the future. Protecting people from the dangers of radiation, whether they are miners, soldiers, or citizens living downwind, must be our highest priority. We have a duty to learn from the mistakes of the past to ensure they are never repeated. The silent warning from Digger's grave echoes through time, urging us to choose caution over carelessness and humanity over heedless ambition for the sake of all our futures.